so beautiful to see you.
I want you to want me.
Hey up there, live music fans. Welcome to episode number 20 of First Concert Memories, the monthly sidecast from your buddies at the Ugly American Werewolf in London, where we invite a guest on to share their stories about the first time they saw a particular band live, and where were they in their life, where were they in their discovery of rock and roll, what did they know about this band, and what happened that night that made it so memorable. And this month we've got a fun one lined up for you. Got a new buddy, Farmer John, who runs the Vinyl Relics podcast, which is a new member of the Pantheon podcast network, of which we are proudly members ourselves. And John's kind of an aficionado of 60s music and the real classic, real birth of rock and roll in North America and across the pond. And he discovers old records that are pretty fantastic, but got overlooked because of something else going on the label or whatever the story may be. But he's here to talk about a night that he was going to go see The Who on their The Kids Are Right tour in 1989. Now, when he told me that, I got really excited because I am a pretty big Who fan. And in 1989, I was a teenager. I was 16, and I was getting really into The Who. I think they put out a greatest hit CD, Who's Better, Who's Best, that was just chock full of songs, and I loved it. We thought they were done because they did their farewell in 1982. They weren't making any more music anymore. Pete Townsend had been solo. And I guess because the Stones and Pink Floyd and others had some big success coming back, they said, yep, we'll do one big fat last tour. Didn't think we were going to get much from Pete Townsend in the future because he had this horrible tinnitus. So I really wanted to see it. I did not. But it was broadcast across the nation on the radio one night, and I believe on HBO one night when they had special guests. And John got to see that show in Toronto. But here's the thing. He's exactly the same age, 16, and he's from a small town a couple hours away. So they embark on a journey as far as where to stay and how to get there. 6 teenagers take the train up to the big city of Toronto, and then hijinks ensue. They can't get a hotel room. They can't find another place to stay. They're carrying around a case of beer. They're getting chased around by Jennifer, the overly attentive desk clerk at the Holiday Inn. They're jumping out of cabs. They're sneaking in the garage. It's some crazy teenage mayhem that makes for a fun story, all with the backdrop, of course, of seeing The Who on what was supposed to be the last time ever tour in 1989. But it's a fun story, and we want to go ahead and get to it. But first, we have a little bit of business to take care of. We always love to mention we are proud members of the Pantheon Podcast Network, a network of over 100 shows, including Vinyl Relics and the Ugly American Werewolf in London. You can learn more at pantheonpodcast.com, follow on socials at pantheonpods. And you owe it to yourself to go check out our sponsor, rarevinyl.com's website. With over 250,000 items in stock, folks, they have got a lot of great Who stuff. They have stuff from all of England and Europe and Japan and the US. So whatever your heart desires, go find it at rarevinyl.com. Find that single that you always wanted. Find that picture disc. Find that box set. Whatever you're looking for, buy it all. And use the code UGLY. You can save 10% off your entire order. Not just one item, but your entire order. So just remember, rarevinyl.com, use the code UGLY, save 10%, your record collection will thank you. Now, I'll admit, we didn't talk a ton about the music of The Who that night. We did a little bit because we've all seen that special broadcast that they did. We think it's from LA, we're not 100% sure. Anyways, towards the end of the tour, I think. And so we had a feel of what The Who were onto there. But really, the story, the true story, is Farmer John's adventure through Toronto, just trying to get to and from The Who show that night. So we're joined by Farmer John. He's kind of talking The Who, but he's really talking about high school hijinks and coming-of-age stories around rock and roll. So before we get into The Who, and Jackson, I want you to weigh in on this too, because Jackson and I are the same age, and in 1989, that summer when The Who came back, we were 16 years old, and we were very much into rock and classic rock. And it was around this time that a lot of bands who people thought, okay, well, they're done.
Right.
Now they come back to do these huge tours, namely Pink Floyd and the Rolling Stones, and the Who were a big deal doing this. But we kind of want to learn a little bit about you before we get into the whole of that night, right? And of course, we're talking about 1989. I think you called it the farewell tour, like number 763 or something like that.
Yeah, but we didn't know that at the time.
Well, yeah, but they kind of done it, in 81 or 82 it was, and like, okay, that's it. Pete's going to be a solo artist, and Roger's going to give it a try too, and like, okay, the Who are done. And they say, what did Pink Floyd do? What did the Stones? Okay, yes, we could do it. We'll do Tommy, and that'll bring everybody together, for the 20th anniversary. But anyway, tell us about you, Farmer John, and your musical experience and your show here on Pantheon.
Well, let's start with that first. My show is called Vinyl Relics. It's just over a year old.
It's a good name too, yeah.
Yeah, and the tagline is that I unearth treasures that time has forgotten. The goal of the show is that each episode features an album that is sort of under the radar. So my theory is that for every Who's Next, for every Forever Changes, for every Pet
Exile
Sounds
on
Revolver,
Main Street, yeah.
Exile on Main Street, there's another album or a dozen albums out there, maybe not quite that caliber, but are worthy of exploration that nobody really knows about.
Cool.
Except for, the sort of diehards. Right.
Yeah.
So I'm sort of a 60s aficionado. I love those obscure garage rock and psych albums. And
nice.
So I started it because I would have these listening parties at my house where I would have friends come over, 3 or 4 friends come over, and I would play them 3 albums. And I wouldn't tell them ahead of time what the albums were.
Okay.
They were always like on the obscure side. And then we would just talk about it. It's almost like having a party or whatever they have, like
with a much better theme and much more interactive and emoting, right? Yeah.
So I'd pick like 3 British psych albums and I'd play them. And then we'd just talk about them. And sometimes they'd really like them. Sometimes it wasn't their thing. And sometimes they were just blown away by how great these albums were. And somebody at some point said, man, you got to start a podcast or something. And I thought, yeah. However, how does somebody do a podcast? I don't know.
It's not that hard, though.
Apparently, it's not that hard because I can do it. Look at us, right? We're doing it. So it can't be that tough. And then just over time, it just developed and the seed got planted. And I was like, yeah, maybe I do want to do this. And here we are.
Yeah, you were rattling off, the big ones, Exile on Main Street and such. There's nothing better than finding that record that is you've never heard it before for whatever reason. It's obscure and it just catches you. And I miss this. Why do I? It's like a whole new world you get exposed to. It's fantastic.
The rabbit hole just gets deeper and deeper the more you dig in. Just when you think you've got, you kind of know a little bit about what's going on, suddenly some artist that you think, how did this guy get past me? Or how did this album escape? Like, I mean, I'm reading books and I'm watching documentaries and I'm listening to interviews and podcasts.
Like all of us.
And then all of a sudden I'll find an album and I'm like, this album is incredible. I'm pissed off that for the last 30 years I haven't been listening to it. I've been wasting my time here. It just gets deeper and deeper and deeper. It never seems to end, which is cool. I mean,
but that's the great part about it. There's always more to explore.
Treasures, man. Finding treasures is the funnest part of this whole game.
We've done that on our prog journey, Jackson. I mean, we had a little bit of the big prog knowledge, and then I don't know. I got into old Genesis Steve Hackett, and I started to drag him along with me on this. That's a big name, Genesis. And there's this whole thing from the 70s. Mm-hmm. And then a new class of the 80s, which I'm still holding. That's what I'm holding on to for later. Like, okay, I know who Marillion is, but we're going to get into that at a later time. I'm still in like my 70s phase right now. I kind of like it. But then you get into find all these bands like, well, goodness, this is bizarrely good. How come I don't know about this? It's fun.
So the thing is about in the 60s is music was exploding so fast, the record companies couldn't keep up. They didn't know what was going to work. They didn't know what was going on. Yeah. They didn't know what was going to be a hit. So they're just like, let's green light everything and hope something sticks.
Yeah.
And, this is a hit. Okay, let's market it. But the other 10 albums that they recorded got, left to the wayside.
Right.
And they're equally great albums. They didn't get the marketing promotion, or they had, some foolish marketing stunts, whatever, bad management, you name it. And here's a fun fact.
Oh, yeah.
Since you mentioned Genesis, Did you know that there was an American band called Genesis a couple of years earlier?
I did not know that.
So they released one album called In the Beginning. I think it was 68. Anyways,
Really?
It's going to be featured on Vinyl Relics this summer. I interviewed their bass player. They only made one album, and they disbanded because one of the guys got drafted and went to Vietnam, and then the band just dissipated. And then when he came back, their manager said they had gotten a call from some bloke named Peter in the UK saying, hey, we've got a band over here we call Genesis. Is it okay if we use the name? And he said, sure, no problem. And he thought, nobody's going to
never go anywhere. Yeah,
they're never going to go anywhere.
That guy was Peter Gabriel, by the way.
That guy was named Peter Gabriel.
Yeah. See, now I have to listen to your show. You're going to be the show that I listen to, with Shout Out Loudcast, of course. But Jackson, you see that collection of vinyl he put up there? We might have to use this for stills,
Yeah, that is pretty cool.
So this is what I do when I'm interviewing somebody for the show. I'll put their albums behind me. So since we're talking about the Who, I'm a huge Who fan, so that's just part of the collection. But
yeah, that's awesome.
Hi, this is Jim McCarthy of the Yardbirds, and you're listening to the Ugly American Werewolf in London.
All right, let's bring it in here. We've got our 20 incredibly well thought out and researched questions that we always ask our guests, and you provide us with the who, what, where, when, why of June 24th, summer 1989 in Toronto, the arena there in Toronto. What was it called back then?
Back then it was called the CNE, which stood for the Canadian National Exhibition.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
It's at about, I want to say it's at 60,000, but I might be wrong on that.
Oh, so that's where like the Blue Jays play. No, not at that time. Or did they?
No, I can't remember
the
when
Sky
they moved
Dome?
to Sky Dome.
It was around there, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I want to say the Sky Dome was early 90s.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, so maybe they were playing there then. I can't remember.
Because 60,000 is a big number.
Yeah. Maybe it's 40 or 50. But anyways, it's a big stadium.
Yeah. And it was actually the Kids Are All Right tour. And I could see the album covered up over your left shoulder there. And they played a hell of a lot of tunes. But I remember they did Tommy in its entirety. Did they do that every night, or did they just did that like special a couple of times?
I don't know if they did it every night. I know they did. I don't know if they did the whole album that night, but they did. If not the whole album, they did the majority of it.
Okay. Gotcha. Because I feel like there was a pay-per-view that a friend of mine made me these cassettes of.
Oh, okay.
Because it was on Westwood One as well,
Right.
And she did a really nice job of like putting the different fonts and colors on there.
And it was a long show because they had an intermission.
Yeah,
Remember,
well, it had to be.
Sets. Yeah.
They did, yeah, but I mean, they played for, it was like 40 songs or something like that. I mean, it's a lot of material. Of course, the Tommy thing has a lot of kind of ups and downs and stuff there. Okay, about how old are you at this time, and how long had you been a big Who fan?
All right, so this is where context is really important here.
Okay.
So we were 16, and...
So we're the same age?
We're the same age.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, we're old.
Yeah, well, yeah. But don't worry about that. You guys are doing great.
Two of my friends and I, one guy's name was Dave and the other guy's name is Todd, and myself, became huge music fans. And I mean, like, ridiculously, this is now our life fans. When we watched a movie called The Complete Beatles. Okay, we watched a documentary called The Complete Beatles. It just happened to be on TV. It was summer. There was nothing to do. And Buddy had his TV on, and it just came on. And of course, we had heard of the Beatles, of course. But this is 1980. This would have been 1987.
Okay.
So obviously the Beatles would have broken up. Obviously we knew of the Beatles, but we didn't really know the story. All I knew is that they were from some place called Liverpool. That's all I knew. And I think I knew John, Paul, George, and Ringo. Like that's it. And I knew maybe a handful of their songs. So we're watching this show, and we're like, holy shit, these guys are really good. I really like this band. And then we're like, let's go downtown. And that was a big deal to go downtown. I live in London, Ontario. So just to give you geographical context here, we're 2 hours away from Toronto for a car ride, and we're 2 hours away from Detroit geographically.
I gotcha.
It's a town of about 300,000 people. So we have at the time, I think we had about maybe 4 or 5 record stores downtown. And we were just kids, and we never went downtown. That's where scary people were. Sure. And, but we had watched this documentary, and we're like, let's go to a record store. Let's go buy some Beatles albums. And so that's what we did. We went downtown and we started buying, and then that became a thing. We would go every weekend.
Just buying LPs, anything that's
going to used record store. We had to go to used record stores because we were poor and we couldn't afford the new ones. And we would make the rounds of the 4 or 5 shops in the downtown area every weekend. And we bought all the Beatles albums. And as we're getting immersed in this, we're starting to, seek out other music that's similar. So, of course, the next logical step was the Rolling Stones. So I bought a Rolling Stones album, but it was out of our heads. And I played that thing until I can recite every single note of every, I played it nonstop. I was like,
but so you're really a 60s guy though. You didn't go to like 70s Stones. You're like, no, you kind of maintain the 60s.
We got there. We did get there. So we did all the Beatles. We did like solo albums, Lennon, McCartney, even a couple of Ringo albums. I love Ringo, but we even got to a couple of his. And then we're like, well, we're running out of albums. We got to branch out here. Let's get into the Rolling Stones. So we got into the Rolling Stones. And then it was like, holy shit. Like now, Exile on Main Street, holy shit, right? It was just one after another after. And then it snowballed, started going in. And then the next band was The Who. I remember my friend Todd got a copy of, somebody gave him a mixed, like a tape, the Maxell XL 2s. Remember those? Those blank tapes. And on one side was Odds and Sods, and on the other might have been, I think it was Greatest Hits, The Who's Greatest Hits.
That's what these are. That's what these Who are, by the way. These are Maxell 90s. These are nice.
Yeah. XL 290s, man. Everybody had them.
XL 290s.
So he let me borrow that because I'm like, oh, let me hear it before I'm poor. I can't just buy albums without knowing if the band's any good. So I threw on Odds and Sods, and the first song I heard was Now I'm a Farmer. And I'm like, these guys are not quite what I was expecting. And I had never heard a Who song, like never. Really? I never heard My Generation, never heard any of it. Wow. So the first Who song I ever hear is Now I'm a Farmer. Now, in retro, looking back now, I love that song. It's great. It's fun. But at the time, I'm like, this isn't quite, this isn't my speed. Then I think he bought Who's Next. Because I thought, The Who, they're not for me. And then he's like, you got to listen to this. And I listened. He was right. Holy shit! Like, wow, right? Like, mind blowing. So then it was down the Who rabbit hole, and then it just expanded. It was, Cream and the Yardbirds and the Small Faces and Zeppelin, of course, and Pink Floyd. It just, we were insatiable. We could not get enough of every week. It was just new bands we were trying, and then it got into the San Francisco, like the Dead and the Airplane and Moby Grape and all that stuff. And then it started expanding into the blues, and we were going into like Howlin' Wolf and Muddy Waters, and it just constantly just diving deeper and deeper. And
does this sound familiar to you, Jackson, at all?
Yeah, like you said, it's the rabbit hole. You get a little taste, and you're like, well, what's next? And it's funny you say you started with that one Odds and Sods, and but you gave them another try, and you decided that you really liked them. But yeah, that's what I thought too. Like, I just kind of thought the Beatles and the Stones and the Who were all kind of the same, and they're really not. They're their own thing.
Yeah. And they're all equally incredible.
Right. Yeah.
And I forgot the Kinks in there, and the Pretty Things. But anyways, I digress.
Yes.
And I have to say, like, as a 16-year-old kid, or at the time 14 or 15, in London, Ontario, trying to find like a Howlin' Wolf album was like, good luck. But we did it, man. Like, we were like, the record shop owners got to know us, and
I'm sure
they enjoyed the fact that here are these kids. We didn't associate with the music of our time. Right. So
absolutely. Right.
80s music with synthesizers and drum machines, and that did not connect with us on any level. So we were listening to our parents' music, you know what I mean? Like, and I think the record store owners got a kick of the fact that these kids are into their, this old music, right?
And so then this old music comes to town now, right?
Well,
so now it's
that's why
June.
It was so important. This wasn't just like another concert. First of all, we had never been to a concert. Right, ever.
So this is your first concert.
So when we hear the Who is coming to Toronto, like, our minds were like, this didn't make sense on any level. Like, first of all, the Who had broken up years ago,
right?
And now it's cool and it's normal to see 40 and 50 and 60, even now 70-year-old rock stars touring. Yeah. But in the 80s, that didn't happen. You didn't have 40-year-olds touring like the world. That was unheard of. Rock stars weren't 40 years old, right? There was no such thing. And when the Stones toured that year, it was a Steel Wheels tour, and they called it the Steel Wheelchair tour. They were so old.
They were in their 40s.
They were in their 40s. What are they doing?
They're mid-40s. Oh, my God.
Right? So, like, this was like, we couldn't believe this was happening. This was like on some other level. We were living in an alternate universe. The Who is touring again. We've got to go.
So how did you find out about it? Was it like a radio ad, like newspaper?
I don't remember that. It must have been that, and somebody probably came to school and went, "Guess what, guys? The Who are coming out." And we're like, "Fuck off! No way!"
Yeah, you're lying. Shut up. Would never happen.
Yeah. So the next step was buying tickets. The thing is, like, again, we got to have context is always really important here. Going from little London, Ontario as 16-year-olds to Toronto it might as well be going to another planet. Like,
right.
People don't understand, like, I think a lot of, especially US listeners, probably don't understand really how big Toronto is. It's the third, next to Los Angeles and New York. It's the next biggest city in North America, right? It's enormous. And we're 16, and we grew up in this little privileged little isolated life. Like, going to this big city was just unfathomable. But we were going to do it. Like, we didn't care. We're like, because we said, and which in retrospect is now very funny considering now that we know what happened. But we're like, they're never going to tour again.
This is our last
we
chance.
don't go now. We'll never get another chance. Yep. This is their last tour. Little did we know. But anyways.
But I remember I wanted to go so bad. Like, I heard about it too. I'm like, God, they're going to go. Because we were seeing the Stones, right, Jackson? Right after this, we saw the Stones on Steel Wheels. So, and we'd already missed Pink Floyd. So I'm like, the Who are coming. Oh, my God. But not everybody comes to Louisville. It's kind of between Nashville and Cincinnati and Chicago and St. Louis. So it's kind of, they just kind of usually go other places that are real close. And at 16, there was no way for me to say, oh, yes, because I turned 16 like the day before you saw them. So, yes, the week I get my driver's license, I'm going to drive to see the Who in another town was just not possible for me. But you're probably in about the same range. I mean, how did you guys get there?
We took the train. So what happened was when we said, okay, we're going, and we started talking about it at school, a couple of other friends that were not, they were music fans, but they were not anywhere near our level of, of music nerdness, But they said, oh, we'll go too, right? So now it was 5 of us. And then one of my one friend, Todd, he had a younger brother that was 2 years younger. And he asked his parents for permission. I did not ask my parents for permission. I'll get to that part. He asked his parents for permission, and they said, you can go, but you have to take your younger brother.
Okay.
So it was 6 of us. So we bought tickets. We stood in line. We skipped school on the day that they were for sale. And we stood in line. We went down at like 5 or 6 in the morning. Okay. Got in line at the Ticketmaster outlet or whatever it was.
Whatever it was, yeah.
And it took all day. We were there all day. And we finally got tickets. And like idiots, because we had never been to a concert before and we were 16, we said, give us 6 tickets, please. So they gave us 6 tickets together rather than we should have said 2
here and 2 there, yeah.
3 sets of 2.
Right.
But we said, no, please give us 6 tickets. And the only spot they had with 6 left was like, I think 5 rows from the top.
Okay.
Like at the very
back
end,
there, yeah.
Right. But we didn't care. We were like going to the Who. Like we were freaking out that this was happening.
Yeah.
Like we were dancing in the street. It was ridiculous how we were acting.
That's awesome.
Was this place inside or outside?
What?
The venue. Yeah.
Yeah, it's outdoor.
Outdoor, okay.
It's like a bowl. It's like a football stadium.
Okay.
Okay.
So so this is a long story. I don't know if you were getting this, the idea of that, because we're just starting this story. So buckle in. This is going to be a long ride. So I can't remember my conversation with my parents because I don't know how on earth they gave me permission to go. I said that I didn't ask for permission. I bought the tickets first. I bought my train ticket, and I did that purposely because I could use that as my argument. Look, I already bought the tickets, Mom. Yeah. Right? And I remember my mom being, because she was very, very overprotective. And I remember her being really upset about it. But she allowed me to go. Again, we were 16. We had to spend the night there because by the time the concert was over, there was no train back. Right. So we had to spend the night. So we were cheap and we were 16 and we were poor. So we just decided, and this is literally what we said, we'll just wander the streets of Toronto all night.
Oh my God.
Perfect. Yeah.
Right. Because, of course, that's what you would do. So that was our plan. We're going to take a train. We're going to go to the show. We're going to wander the streets of Toronto all night and then take the train back in the morning.
Yeah,
okay?
It was 6:30 a.m., 7 a.m. train, something.
So everything was cool. We were ready to go. The night before the show, my mom gets a phone call around 9 o'clock, and it's Todd's mom. And Todd's mom had just got a call from Steve's mom.
Oh, no.
Steve's mom asked Steve, oh, by the way, where are you sleeping tonight or tomorrow night? And Steve said, oh, we're just wandering the streets of Toronto. And Steve's mom
way to go, Steve.
freaks out. Okay, because she's like, you're 16, you're going to get killed. Rightfully so. She's probably right.
Yeah, I'd kill
so
Steve.
She starts calling all the moms.
Oh,
and,
God.
You know, and she calls Todd's mom, and Todd's mom calls my mom. And they're all saying the same thing. Do you know the boys don't have a place to stay tomorrow? And my mom freaks out, and she calls. The phone calls are just going back and forth to the moms. So finally, Steve's mom decides, I'm going to try and solve the situation. I'm going to call some hotels, and I'm going to explain the situation, because this is 1989. You can't book a hotel online, right? And if you're under 18, you can't use a credit card. Right. So I'm going to explain the situation. I'll give a letter, permission letter if I have to. I'll give my credit card to my son. Can you please give him a hotel room for the night? And she's calling around all these hotels in Toronto to try and
figure it out.
Her case. Yeah. She finally gets the Holiday Inn on Yonge Street to agree. A fun fact, Yonge Street is the longest street in the world. There's a fun fact for you. Anyways, So it's downtown core Toronto. She calls this Holiday Inn. She speaks to a lady named Jennifer, I think was her name, explains the situation. Jennifer says, yeah, okay, have your son bring the credit card. We're not supposed to do this, but okay, we'll let you do it.
Sweet.
Again, ask for Jennifer when you get there. So we get on the train. We all take our backpacks, our school bags, and we fill it full of beer, because we're going to have a hotel room on our own for the night. And we're going to
What kind of beer was it?
Molson. It would have been Molson Canadian and probably Labatt Blue. Those are the two famous beers in this area anyways. So, we get on the train. No, I don't remember anything eventful on the train. We get off the train. We walk to the Holiday Inn, all six of us with our backpacks full of beer. And you walk into the Holiday Inn, and it's huge. Like, there's a waterfall in this atrium that's, stories high, the big, but they got like the big concierge desk and everything over by the side, and 6 elevators.
Big atrium, the water feature.
Like this huge hotel that you would see in the movies, right? And we're like, and we walk in and we're like, wow, right? We're 16, like, wow, there's a waterfall inside, man. And and right when you walk in, there was like this little section where they had these, places where you could, like little storage cubicles where you could put your stuff. You put in a quarter and you get a key and you can
I see.
Put luggage in there. So we're hanging out there. So there's 4 of us hanging out there while Steve and one of the other guys goes up to the counter to talk to Jennifer, because that was the plan. Go talk to Jennifer. And they do their business, and everything's cool. And they start walking back, and Jennifer's walking with them towards the elevator. And I think she's saying, like, guys, I'm putting my neck on the line for you guys. So make sure,
No funny business.
Yeah, no funny business. So we see this happening, and the 4 of us start following the group, this other group, right? And then Jennifer sees that we're kind of following. And she's like, who are you? And we said, oh, we're with Steve. And she goes, what? There's 6 of you?
Oh, boy.
And we said, yeah. And she goes, oh, no. She just gets defensive right away. No. This isn't happening. I thought there was only 2 of you. Nobody told me there were 6. No way. And she rips the key out of Steve's hand.
Nice.
We're like,
no.
Okay. So now we're in Toronto. And sorry, you had questions, and I think I'm on one question.
No, this is what the story is. So keep rolling here.
Okay, I'm just riffing.
So now, you've got no place to stay.
We got
still got a ton of beers.
We got a ton of beer, and our original plan was to quote unquote wander the streets of Toronto. But now that we're in Toronto and we see there's a million frickin' people, and we're really scared shitless. Like, we're like, I'm not wandering the streets of Toronto. It's crazy.
It's a lot of
people. So we're like, we got to find another place to stay. So I can't remember why, but we put our beer in maybe because we just didn't want to carry them around.
Sure.
We put our beer in one of those lockers, and we started going around. And we figured, we'll get it at the end of after the show. We'll come back and get it.
Yeah.
And we started wandering around to other hotels nearby and saying, hey, can you let us in? And no, 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 no. And this took a few hours of, trying.
Just rejection.
Yeah. So we thought, oh, what are we going to do? So we went back to the Holiday Inn and just decided, let's just start phoning place rather than going, let's save time and just start phoning around. So we go to the Holiday Inn, back to that atrium or whatever you call it. And we're using the payphone, and Jennifer sees us and she's like, what are you guys doing here? And we're like, oh, we're just trying to find another hotel room. Like, relax, we're leaving. We're just trying to find someplace to stay tonight. So we're phoning hotels. So that's what we did. We just started phoning, and they keep rejecting us. And then we thought, why don't we phone a bed and breakfast? Maybe they'll let us in. Maybe they got,
something different, right? Yeah.
Not the corporate rules. Maybe we can. So we find one that says yes. Great. So we get on we get on the subway to go to this place. We've never been on a subway before. We get on a subway, we go, and it's way across town. It takes us, we got to get on 3 different buses, a subway. It was ridiculous. We finally get to this address that we had written down or ripped out of the yellow pages. I can't remember. And we're looking for this place. And, this is obviously before Google Maps. We can't find the address anywhere. Like, we're asking people, like, nobody knows. So we get the payphone and we call back, and we're like, trying to find them.
Where are you?
There's no answer. Like, they just don't answer. We're like, oh God, we just wasted like 2 hours. So we make the trek because our beer's still back at the Holiday Inn. Right. So we're like, we got to go back to the Holiday Inn. So we go back to the Holiday Inn. Jennifer sees us and she's freaking out. What the hell are you guys doing? Every time we see her, she's getting more and more upset. We're like, we're leaving. Just don't worry. We're leaving. By this time, I think the show started at I want to say 7:30 or something like that. Yeah. By this time, it's like 6 o'clock. Like, we've spent all day trying
So you've already had a pretty big day at this point.
Yeah. We've searching around and on this hunt to find accommodations. And now it's like 6 o'clock and we're freaking out. So the Holiday Inn is attached to an underground mall system that is 19 miles long underneath of Toronto.
Goodness.
It's crazy. It's called Path. I don't know if it was called Path back then. And it connects office buildings, and it has stores and escalators, and this huge mall underground. And the Holiday Inn has this concourse area that you walk that one level underground. It's sort of an incline down to that mall. And all these people, because it's a Saturday, so it's a busy day, all these people are walking around the Holiday Inn and going into that mall. So we just start following because we're like, I don't know, what are we going to do? And we're just talking to ourselves like, what the fuck are we going to do, guys? And then somebody gets the brilliant idea. Let's just ask somebody. We'll pay them money to book us a room. We'll explain the situation and we'll find somebody to book us a room. And I'm like, I'm not doing that. And Steve and Todd, they were the talkers. While the 4 of us sat back, they went up and just started approaching random people and said, can you book us a hotel room? We're trying to go see the Who tonight. We don't have a place to stay. And everybody's standing there, fuck off, kids. And one guy and his wife, he was younger. He was probably, I'm going to say, in his late 20s. So not that far removed from...
He understands what you're up against.
Yeah, he understands. And I couldn't see I couldn't hear the conversation, but I could see exactly... I could tell what they were saying. And Dave and Steve were going, come on, man. Like, all we want to do is just go see the Who tonight. We nowhere to stay. And they're telling the whole story. We tried to get a room and Jennifer's a bitch and he's there with his wife. And you could see the guys like going, yeah, okay, I get it. Yeah. I was here once. Yeah. And you could see the wife's like, Right. No way, Tom, are you doing this? No way, And then the guy says to my buddies, can you give us a second? I just want to talk to my wife. So they walk away. The husband and the wife are standing there talking, and you can just see he's going, come on, honey, we were kids once too. They seem like good kids, They're just trying to go to see a concert. Let's do it. And I can't remember what hotel rooms costed back then. I want to say, let's say $100. I don't know. He comes back and he goes, okay, I'll do it for $200. Like, he wanted double whatever the room rate was.
Right.
And we're like, yeah, we're broke, right? So we're like, we're pooling our money together. Like literally every dime we have, we're we're emptying our pockets, right? And we got like, I don't know, $185.29. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we're like, this is literally everything we've got. And he's like, okay, fine. So he goes and he gets us a room, comes back 10 minutes later, hands us the key. So we go into the elevator, grab our bags of beer, we go into the elevator, and we hit whatever the floor, sixth floor, whatever. And right out of a movie, just as the doors are closing, this hand comes down, and it's fucking Jennifer.
Wait, you stayed at the Holiday Inn?
Yeah. We were still connected to the whole. We were in that little concourse area that was connected to the Holiday Inn. So that's where he got the room. So as we're going up to the room, Jennifer stops us, and she goes, "Oh my God, she's mad." I've never seen Jennifer so mad. She's like, "Where the fuck are you guys going?" And this is an elevator full of like 20 people, and she's like, "Where the fuck are you guys going?" I'm like deer in the headlights. Like, I'm like so shitting my pants right now. I couldn't say anything. And my buddy goes, we met some of our friends. They're going to the concert too. We're just going to drop our bags off and then we're leaving. Promise. And she's like, yeah, what floor is he on? And we, like idiots, I said 6 and he said 2 and he said 4. And she goes, get the fuck out of here right now or I'm calling the cops. Like, she was just freaking out.
Good Lord.
So we leave. And we're like, now what? We have a hotel room. We can't get to the hotel room because of the tyrant, Jennifer.
Yeah.
Man, she was good at her job. Anyways, so I think this was my brilliant idea. I said, let's go through the parking garage, like below, and we'll take the elevator all the way up. We'll bypass that main level so she won't see us. So that's what we did. We had to wait for somebody to leave the parking garage because you can't get in with the door. Like, there's no door handle to get in.
Okay.
It's got one of those like push doors only on the inside.
On the inside, yeah.
So we're standing, waiting. Finally, somebody leaves, and we get into the parking garage. We get in the elevator, we go up to our room, we dump our bags, we go back down to the parking garage because we want to avoid Jennifer.
Yes.
And we go out the door, and we think, okay, you know what? We got to get back in tonight. So we don't want to go in the main doors because of Jennifer. She's going to alert all the staff to not let these 6 punks in. So I remember leaving a popsicle stick to like Jimmy the door, thinking, well,
that'll be there all night.
That'll be there all night. Yeah, sure. Anyways, by now it's 7:30, like the concert's starting, and we have no money. So we were planning to walk to the concert, but we thought, let's just hail a cab and then we'll ditch the cab, right? So, and
always a great idea.
I feel really bad about that, but that's exactly what we did. So to that Toronto cabbie, I apologize for being a douche.
Wow.
But anyways, so remember, there's 6 of us. We hail a cab. You can't fit 6 people in a cab because there's a driver, right? Mm-hmm. There's 1 guy in the front and 3 in the back. You can only fit 4 passengers. So it was every man for himself. We're literally fighting each other off to get into the cab. And then as soon as we get in there, we're like, go, go. So the driver's like, okay. So he hits the gas, runs over Brian's foot in the process.
Nice. Sorry, Brian.
So we're laughing. We're giving Brian the finger. We're like, sucker, you didn't get in the cab and you got your foot run over. Anyways, we make it to the show. And like, wide-eyed, like 60,000 people. It's the Who. We're just like, we were so far away and it was amazing. We were like, couldn't believe we were witnessing this moment in history. And my friend brought some wacky tobacco, and he was trying to roll this joint while watching the show, but he was so excited, his like hands were trembling and he couldn't do it. And this lady in front of us kept looking back, turning towards us, and I'm like, she's a narc, we're fucked. And
turns out she just wanted some.
And then after about 5 minutes, she finally goes, didn't your mama teach you nothing? She turns around, she grabs it, and she goes, there you go. And in like half a second, she had this joint rolled. And then we proceeded to share in each other's wares, and we had a great time. And we thoroughly enjoyed the show. And then at intermission, we decided, we're pretty far up. Maybe we should try and sneak down to the floor, because that seemed like a smart idea. So we did that. 6 of us walked down the stairs towards the floor, and we get to the bottom of the floor, and there's a security there. He's got a flashlight, and he's checking tickets. So we just hand him the tickets. And he looked at them, and he went, okay, go ahead, go ahead, go ahead. To the first 4 of us, go ahead, go ahead, go ahead, go. The last 2, he goes, oh, No, your seats are over there. So
No way!
I don't know why, but it's the same dude who got his foot run over also got fucked in the.
No,
He had to go up to the top.
So we're laughing
Brian!
at him again. He's way back up in the nosebleed seats, and we get on the floor, and we're just like, let's just walk as far as we can to an empty seat and sit down and see what happens. And that was 4 rows from the front.
Goodness.
We just walked up like we had balls of steel, like we were meant to be there, and we just sat down, and nobody said a thing, and nobody came, and we watched the second half of the show 4 rows from the front, and I can't explain. Oh, that's a Who reference. I can't explain.
There you go. Pulling it all
I didn't
together.
even mean that. I can't explain how amazing that was to see, sweat falling off of Pete Townsend's face. It was just.
I would have been sweating, though. I'd be the whole time thinking, looking over my shoulder, like, they're coming to take these seats now, aren't they? They're going to come figure this out, aren't they? Yeah.
At first we're like, holy fuck, what are we doing? And then the show started, and then everybody starts, the crowd's up, and by then we knew, oh, we're good.
Hey, what's up, everybody? It's rock and roll comedian Don Jameson, and you're listening to my Pantheon podcast partners, the Ugly American Werewolf in London, and actually, they're kind of beautiful.
Okay, and so by the way, my friend, you talked about My Generation. You hadn't heard that, or before you just jumped into the Who. But here's the set two. It starts with Magic Bus, Marianne with the Shaky Hands, Baba O'Reilly, My Generation. Then Pete does Let My Love Open the Door, 5:15 Love Reign O'er Me. I mean, you got back to back, big time Who there, my friend.
Big time. And I remember Baba O'Reilly because of the lights. That's where the lasers came out, and I was just like, "Fuck me, this is the best moment of my life." Like, wow, like it was mind blowing. I couldn't believe I was there. I couldn't believe I was witnessing it. I couldn't believe that my heroes were, right there. It was unbelievable.
I can't believe that there were 4 seats that were open. That's crazy.
Yeah,
I wonder, did somebody
know.
just leave at intermission? Like, man, I've had enough.
I can't explain that either. I don't know. But there's a little more to the story if you want me to continue.
Please.
Absolutely.
Okay, because the story of Jennifer is not over.
I somehow believed that.
Yeah. The show ends. We start walking home because we don't have any money. We've got no other way to get to the hotel. We get back to the hotel, and lo and behold, the popsicle stick propping the door open is gone for who knows how that could have happened.
Shocking, yes.
So we wait, but by now, because it was like an hour and a half walk to get home, and by now, like, I don't know, it was like 1:00 in the morning, and we're waiting for somebody to exit because you can't get into the parking garage.
Right.
We're waiting for somebody to exit, but it's 1 a.m. Like, nobody's leaving, so we're waiting. We're like, fuck, nobody's coming out at 1 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we got to go through the front, but we were trying to avoid the front because we were scared of Jennifer.
Of course.
So we're like, we have no choice. We have to go in through the front. So we go in, and I mean, this place is so big that you can't really see somebody walking in the front door from the front desk because it's kind of have to go around the corner to see the desk.
Okay.
But the elevators are way across, so you definitely could see us walk into the elevators. And again, it's 1:00 in the morning. There's nobody there, so we're like, we don't want to walk
stick out,
across.
and you're all together, right?
We're all together. So then we're like, what the fuck are we gonna do? Like, how are we gonna get upstairs? And we see a stairwell on the other side of the desk. I don't know. Is it called a concierge desk? I don't know what it's called.
I guess, yeah.
And we see Jennifer. We're at that locker area. Like, we're peeking our heads around the corner, and we see Jennifer. Like, does she never sleep? What the hell? She's been there all day.
Yeah.
And we're like, there's no way she's still here. Like, oh my God, what are we going to do?
She's working late just to try to bust you. That's the only reason.
That's what we're literally like. That's why she's here. She wants,
Exactly.
We're idiots. We're thinking like,
I don't know that you are. She has something. I mean, she has it in for you for sure. She does not want to lose this game.
Do you know why she was still there?
I do not know.
Because she found that popsicle stick hours before, and she was like, "Oh,
that's right.
Do it."
She ran the DNA.
Yes.
Like
Like, you fuckers are trying. Not on my watch. I am Jennifer. God damn it!
I should have been home 3 hours ago.
My Holiday Inn.
Yeah.
Oh, I never thought about that. That's probably true.
Because this is a movie.
It's
exactly. Yeah.
I know it. Anyways, so she's the only one working, and she's like back from the counter, doing like paperwork and stuff. And we're like, we only have one choice. We got to get to that stairwell, which is on the other side of this desk.
So you have to go right past the desk.
We got to go right past the desk with our bags full of clanging beer.
Yeah.
So what we did was we crawled in front of the desk. So if the desk is this high, we're crawling here so she can't see us, So we're literally one guy at a time is crawling, getting past the desk into the stairwell, and then doing the, okay, next, and because so all six of us eventually. This took about half an hour for all of us to.
Oh my God!
It was like a total Indiana Jones Mission Impossible
tense,
kind of
man.
moment.
Yeah.
Oh, it was so tense. I was shitting my pants. Anyways, we made it. We got to our room. We're 16, and we got a lot of beer, and we just saw the greatest live performance that has ever been recorded in history.
So you start making a bunch of noise.
We start drinking our beer, and we figured, you know what? This is in our hotel room. We're 16-year-old boys. And there's pornography in hotel rooms. Let's watch some of that, right? Free, because we don't have to pay for this shit. So that started going, and we're like, hey, I wonder if room service is still available.
Oh, God.
Sure is, because we don't have any money, and we got to eat. Because we gave all our money to the dude to get the hotel room. So we're like, fuck that dude. Let's get our money's worth. So we did, and we ate like kings. And we watched pornography, and which was not something that we had ever been exposed to because this was pre-internet. And we had a great night. And then the next morning, we go to leave, and we're like, we don't care anymore about Jennifer because we
already did it.
Yeah, it's done, right? And I don't know if you dudes had this where you lived at the time, but in Ontario, we did not have Sunday shopping. Sunday shopping was not a thing. Stores were not allowed to be open on Sundays unless it was like a drugstore or a restaurant. So this mall I had talked about, this underground mall was all closed up.
Okay, gotcha.
So we get off the elevator and we start walking and we see Jennifer. I mean, it's 9 in the morning, and she was there at 1 in the morning, and she had been there all day. Like, I don't know. Maybe she had a twin. I don't know. So we see her, and we're like, F you, Jennifer. Give her the finger. And she starts chasing us. Like, literally.
You gotta go.
So we're like, holy shit. So we go down that incline, that concourse area I was talking about, towards that mall, that underground mall. But we didn't know that was even we didn't know where we were going. We're just running away.
Just running. Jennifer. Yes.
And we get to this mall, and they have those turnstiles, and they're locked because the mall's closed. So we jump over them, and we're running through this mall. And it's like I said, it's 19 miles of tunnels that go all throughout Toronto. We didn't know this existed. So we're going down all these tunnels and everything. And finally, we're like, okay, we've lost her. That's fine. And then we get to this other kind of opening, this big atrium, stories high, but still underground. But I can't really describe it, but there's skylights at the top and stuff. And
that's sweet, yes.
They had these benches, and the floor was made of these little subway tiles, and there's 4 benches. And we sat on the benches for a while, and then one of the guys just started sliding on one of the benches, grabbing the bench, running with it, and then jumping on it and sliding across the floor. And then we decided, hey, this looks fun. Let's play bumper cars with these benches. So we started running at each other with these, and then jumping on these benches and slamming into one another, and then bang, and these benches are just splintering. And then we see down the escalator, which was not running because the mall was closed, we see a cop with Jennifer. For fuck's sake.
But at this point, you're full-on hooligans at this point. You are causing damage and are no good.
We are no good.
She's got a pretty good story for the cops.
So she had called the cops, and she sees at the top of the escalator. Thank God she says, hey, because if she had have not said anything, it would have been easy to catch us because we were making a lot of noise. And we holy shit. So we just start taking off, and we run again through this maze of tunnels. And somehow we go out the doors, and we're at Union Station, which is our train station. We're I don't know, the gods of hooliganism were on our side. They're like, oh, there's your train station. So we just literally walk across the street, and we're in our train station, and we get on the train and we go home, and that was the end of the story.
That's one hell of a night. It would make a great movie.
I've said that 1,000 times. I'm going to write a book. It's going to be called Teenage Wasteland. Maybe someday sell the rights to a movie. I just haven't got around to it, but definitely in that kind of almost famous kind of vibe of a movie.
Well, it's a lot like Detroit Rock City, the Kiss movie where the kids the kids get taken by their mom. She burns them, so they got to find another way in, and they go through. They're running from everybody. Yeah, that would sell for sure. Now, what about music wise though? I mean, did you have a favorite moment from the like a song you really remember, or like you said, the lights were really cool on Bob O'Reilly?
Yeah.
What was the high point from the show?
Well, the second half for me was the highlight because we were so close, and it was just by then it was dark, so now you had the laser show and everything, which you didn't have at the first set. The first set, it was just like, I can't believe I'm here,
Yeah. And you're way up in the middle of nowhere.
We're in the middle of nowhere. We're watching the screens because they were just ants on stage.
Right.
But it was still like, it's amazing, right? But the second half, just with that, Love Reign Over Me, and it was just amazing. And then I remember the encore, Roger came out and played Hey Joe on an acoustic guitar, just him.
Yeah. Oh, that was just Roger.
That was just Roger. And I remember thinking, I didn't even know Roger could play guitar. Like, I didn't know that at that time. And it was amazing. I was like, oh, wow, this is fantastic. This is just what a great way to start an encore. It was just amazing. And then awesome. I like that they did, so the Ox got a couple songs. I can't remember what I think he played My Wife. And
he played Too Late the Hero of his.
Yeah. I didn't know that
Boris
song
the Spider is on here.
Yeah. So
Pete got a few good ones though. I mean, Pete's the, he's the guy anyway, but I mean, some, got Rough Boys in there, and Let My Love Open the Door, and Little Is Enough, Friend Is a Friend. You got some of the big ones in there. They did 40 songs that night.
Yeah, and I think Friend of a Friend was maybe like the current hit at the time, if I'm not mistaken, or it was recent anyways.
It's more recent, I think anyways, yeah.
So it was a nice mix of songs, and I mean, it kind of spoiled concerts for me because, that's your first show. Like, it was hard. I saw the Stones like maybe 2 months later, and it was equally amazing, but there's just nothing like that first show,
Absolutely, the very first show. Yeah. So have you seen them since? And like in a more really, you never saw the Who again? Never saw the Who again. Because they've come to Toronto. I mean, they've toured plenty over the last 25 years, really. I mean, and they always hit Toronto, so you always sat out, yeah? For whatever reason, I just couldn't make it, but it was my one and only time. Cool. Well, have you seen the Who, Jackson, live? No, I have not. And so that's, but I remember when they did this tour, though. It was a big deal. And I could almost swear that they, at some points in time, they did the entirety of Tommy. Mm-hmm. They did, like, Billy Idol was, the bad cousin or whatever, and Phil Collins was the creepy uncle or whatever, and someone, like Anita Baker, somebody was like the acid queen. I can't remember. It wasn't Anita Baker. It was, anyway. Yeah, because they made a huge deal out of it. They played at a giant stadium, I think more than one night in a row. Right. And they simulcast it. It was a really big deal. And I think that's what this is. This is what these tapes are. That they simulcast it, and they simulcast it on Westwood One also because they did like most all of Tommy, but then they also broke up some of it too. I don't know. This is from Dallas, anyway. And I know it was a big deal, Tommy, because the T-shirts that were for sale. They're all Tommy. I feel like that was in September. Like it was on HBO or something like that, wasn't it? Yeah. I think it was. I think they broadcast like a Los Angeles show or something, and that's where they had all those guests. The special guests, yeah. Our show didn't have any of the guests, but all the merchandise and everything was all Tommy themed. Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. I did see them 3 times, including in London. Nice. And that was different because they had an orchestra with them too. It was at Wembley. Oh, cool. My whole rest of my life was just like, that was the tour I wanted to see. And part of it was at the time, hey, the tour had already quit playing. They're not making any more music. They just kind of went out and did this tour. This is my chance to see them. And to do 40 songs, that's crazy. Mm-hmm. They won't even do 20 anymore, Yeah. But still, I mean, it was every time I had the chance to see them, I caught them. And I did see them with Entwistle once, too. So, look, the Who were always great live. Yes, it's not the same ones, they got older. But they always had great people around them. Like Pino Palladino played the bass. Like the next time I saw the Who, right. they always had people. I saw Zach Starkey play with the Who, right? I mean, they always had great people on the drums, on the bass, on the pianos. Everything that aren't Roger and Pete. As long as those two were having fun, then it would make for a good show. Yeah. Well, cool. Well, you want to let people know where to find you on socials? You got a website or anything like that? I don't have a website, but I'm on all the socials, Vinyl Relics. Yeah, come find me there. Come find you? Yeah. Very cool. Jackson, you got any extras for John?
I think I'm definitely going to check the show out. I'll tell you that. It's an interesting concept, and the new records that I've never heard of before that are new to me. I can't wait to dive into some of that.
Yeah, like so the last episode. So I do an episode every week. Last week's episode was on a band called Killing Floor. I don't know if you ever heard of them.
Heard of the song?
Yeah, well, that's where they got their name actually. So if you like Zeppelin, you listen to Killing Floor, you're like, holy shit. This is like so Zeppelin-y.
Where are they from?
They're from Britain. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Well, that's a plus.
So yeah, I mean, it's albums like that.
Sweet,
albums
man.
that
Awesome.
That deserve more attention than they got.
Killer. Well, no, that's a great show. I can't wait to tune into that, man.
Yeah.
Vinyl Relics with Farmer John. Hey, man, thanks for coming to tell your Who story. It's a show. It was an era for the Who that was very important, like in my, and I would say also Jackson's development of understanding who they were and, what they brought to rock and roll and the whole Tommy thing. And, we were the same age. So I have some hotel stories from high school and shows, but nothing quite like the one you shared with us.
I often wonder where Jennifer is
tonight.
today.
And how many times she told that story to somebody
She's a
else.
prison guard now, dude.
I wonder in her version if she's like, I caught those bastards.
Yeah, probably. They tried to
they're
get
in jail
right,
because
yeah.
of me. And it was all because they left behind that popsicle stick.
Fuck you, Jennifer.
She was just doing her
good.
job. Jennifer, if you're out there, I apologize. I was young and foolish. Cool. Yeah, it was nice meeting you guys. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
All right,
Thank
brother.
you.
Be cool. Have a good one.
Thanks.
Well, I don't know if that was the most amazing story about going to see the Who that I ever heard, but I think it was one of the most entertaining stories of a night out to see a concert, your first ever, The Who, on their last ever, at the time, and going on wild goose chases and sneaking past Jennifer and clanking beers around, and it sounded like he lived 2 days in that one day. But that's what we're trying to preserve here on First Concert Memories. Because a lot of times when you go, you are younger. The world is bigger and your expectations are somewhere between I have no idea to I can't wait to see what it is. Your first ever concert with your true idols, The Who. I mean, you heard about what John said about how he discovered The Who and the Beatles and Stones and how he and his buddies went on this rock and roll journey together, which sounds familiar to me and Jackson. And then all of the hijinks that ensues with Jennifer at the Holiday Inn and trying to find a bed and breakfast and trying to get in and out of there, trying to avoid Jennifer. It sounds too good to be true. But it's a rock and roll story that we're trying to preserve here on First Concert Memories. What it's really all about. You're young at your first concerts. You're with your friends. You're getting some freedom. But you're also coming into the big, bad, mean world of rock and roll. And if you're from a smaller town, you hit the big city, throw all that together. That was quite a night. And I guess I got into a couple of those back in the day. Maybe I'll have to start interviewing myself on this show once in a while for my own personal concert memories. But we appreciate John and encourage you to check out Vinyl Relics, new show on Pantheon. And we want to know, folks, which live acts do you want to hear about the most on First Concert Memories? What are your memories of the first concerts you ever went to with your buddies? Or just the first time you saw a particular band live that changed your perspective of the band or turned out to be an incredible night? Maybe much like our friend Farmer John's there. Email us and let us know. It's uglyamericanwerewolf@gmail.com. Also check out, of course, our weekly show, The Ugly American Werewolf in London Rock Podcast. Thanks, as always, to Pantheon Podcast for making us part of the family. And thanks to our sponsor, RareVinyl.com, where if you use the code UGLY, you can save 10% off one entire order. Make sure you download and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. If you're enjoying the show, hey, give us a 5-star review. Helps us find more rockers like you. And if you send it our way, we might just read it on an episode of First Concert Memories or The Ugly American Werewolf in London. Next month, if I've read the stars correctly, we might just hear a story about some really old school artists that we'd love to hear more about live. So you're going to have to stay tuned. And keep going to see live music. It's the only way we're going to keep rock alive.